Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and this is the full basic Bretonnia roster. You'll have access to all these units and their rules throughout the Forces of Fantasy book. So no named characters or anything, but you do have access to a complete army. You will be able to, kit up your characters and so on. But we're not here to talk about the basic Bretonnia roster. This is what you have vanilla. We're going to talk about the armies of infamy. As you are aware, each of the factions in the core section will be getting a Arcane Journal as time progresses. The Arcane Journal for Bretonnia provides two armies of infamy, the Bretonnia Exiles and the Aontree Crusade. And what this does is it provides you with new special rules, new rosters, new units for the selected armies, of course, and the idea is here to spice up how you play your selected faction. You can still totally play Warhammer the Old World with just your Forces of Fantasy book and your core rulebook, but if you want to play a different style of your most beloved faction in the core section, you'll be able to do so in a very similar, inspired way to that of the Storm of Chaos in 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy. So let's start off with the Aontree Crusade. This one's going to be more familiar to old school Bretonnia fans, as this one's the one that they were pushing to multiple colors and all that. So here you can have up to 50%, and your character choices are dukes, barons, prophetesses, a paladin, damsels, or sergeant at arms. Very basic. I think it's actually pretty much what everyone has vanilla-wise. For core, you need to have 33%, and this is where things get a little bit interesting. So obviously, Knights Errant are a thing. You can have one unit of Battle Pilgrims as a core choice, Knights of the Realm on foot and mounted, and finally, Squires. When it comes to special, it's 50%, and here you can have Men-at-Arms, Peasant Bowmen, Battle Pilgrims, Questing Knights, and Pegasus Knights. And when it comes to rare, you can have Grail Knights, Mounted Yeomen, and Trebuchets. This is on a 33%. What you will notice here is that there's no new units for the Aontree Crusades, barring one thing. There's a very interesting mercenary mechanic, obviously, which tells you up to 25% of your mercenaries can be Empire Knights and Inner Circle Knights. So yeah, the main gist about this is that you're going to be with just pretty much horses, horses, and horses, loads of crusading armies. It's pretty interesting, to be honest. There are some new units for the other stuff, for the other faction, but yeah, this is kind of like standard style Bretonnia, obviously with peasants being in special rather than core. It might be interesting for you. It very much depends on your style. Keep in mind that there are some special rules which we're going to talk about right now. So Crusading Knights gives a bunch of units the Crusader Zeal special rule, which we'll talk about in just a second, and also your characters which have Knight's Vow, or units that have Knight's Vow, can get Crusader's Vow for free. Again, we'll talk about this here. I'm not going to give you all the units here, but it won't be long until you can actually see this for yourself. Crusader's Zeal increases the charge range and also your charge results by 1 inch, which is not too bad, to be honest, and also gives the units with this special rule Impetuous. And Crusader's Vow gives you the Veteran special rule, plus also, you don't take panic tests when peasants die, but who cares about peasants anyway? And finally, earn your spurs. You get more victory points when capturing banners with Knights Errant, and if you're near a character with Grail Vow or unit with Grail Vow, and or a Bretonnian Lord, you can reroll 1s with Knights Errant. So yeah, this is the Bretonnian faction if you want to be a bit more aggressive with pure horse armies, which I imagine some people are going to do. It's an army that I eventually want to do after I'm done with my forces, as obviously I'm focusing on the core stuff first, and I do want a unique paint scheme for an Aontree Crusade. But yeah, I mean, it's not too bad. The only thing is no new units, no new anything really, barring the rules. It's just the rules and the roster, so it might feel a little bit less for some people. Alright, so let's talk about the Bretonnia Exiles list, and this is where things get a little bit different. So, characters up to 50%, you can get a Baron, a Damsel, a Paladin, Outcast Wizards, and a Sergeant at Arms. When it comes to the core, you get 25%, Knights of the Realm on foot and mounted, Yeoman Guard, there's a new unit, Peasant Bowmen, Knights Errant, Men-at-Arms, Mounted Yeomen. When it comes to special, you can have Squires, Pegasus Knights, and Battle Pilgrims. When it comes to rare, you can get Questing Knights, Border Prince Brigands, this is a new unit, the Trebuchet, and of course a Border Prince Bombard. I've got a 3rd edition one that I'm just repainting now. And for mercenaries, you've got a little bit of a restriction here where you can bring 25% of Free Company, Militia, or Empire Archers. So you've got a bit more range than the standard, well, a lot more range actually, than the standard Bretonnian army. Bombard is basically a cannon, so you'll be able to take advantage of that. Plus it gives you something a little bit more reliable than Trebuchet. But if you wanted a Bretonnian army, like more or less 4th edition, with a little bit of black powder weaponry, this is going to be the one for you. Alright, let's talk about some special rules. So when it comes to Banished Lords, this means that Barons and Paladins cannot get the Grail Vow. However, a host of units can replace the Knight's Vow for something called the Exiles Vow that we're going to talk about now. The Exiles Vow gives you Stubborn and also the Veteran special rule, and not only that, but with Peasants and Levies, you just don't panic when they get destroyed and so on, which again, who cares about the peasantry? And finally, there is Reclaimed Glory. So, unlike the other 2 Bretonnian armies, what you have here is you can't pray at the beginning of your game, meaning that you won't be able to get that tasty ward save. However, your units can get this if you make contact with a fleeing unit, overrun them, or if a character kills another character. These are specifics to the ones actually doing the action, which does sound a bit difficult to remember, in all honesty, because that means that you're going to have to keep tabs. I would suggest having special prey markers on units, which is right next to their movement tray and so on, so you can have it there. Remember, with games like this, it's going to be quite all over the place, so you're going to want to have markers just for remembering what has Frenzy, for example, or whatever, yeah? Alright, let's start talking about the new stuff. So you have access to Outcast Wizards, which means that you can have up to a level 3, you can't go up to a level 4, unfortunately, but you have access to Battle Magic, Demonology, Dark Magic, Elementalism, Illusion, and Necromancy. This gives you access to a lot of different laws of magic, which, yeah, you can tailor around an army or 2. Yeoman Guard are essentially just men-at-arms, a little bit stronger. They still have options like, the Grail Monk and all that type of stuff. It's just essentially that, and like the 6th edition styling, it just basically tells you to kit bash it with men-at-arms and some other kits just to make up your own unit. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. They're not being too spectacular. I mean, they've got a little bit better weapon skill than than men-at-arms, but fairly decent chaff, I'd say. Same thing with Border Prince Brigands, so I mean, you can have them with hand weapon and shield, or you can give them crossbows, blunderbusses too, and pistols. So you can have, yeah, pretty much Empire State Troop kit here, just to make up what you want. You get a lot more options. That does mean that you can get a lot of black powder weaponry. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you want from this. I haven't been able to write a list idea for this yet, mostly because pretty much all my State Trooper units are being painted in Avalon scheme, and yeah, And I'll be honest with you, I haven't had too much time to look at the Exiles and pretty much a lot of the Armies of Infamy at the moment, because I'm working on vanilla stuff more than anything else. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good option. It does give you loads of different weapons that you just naturally didn't have access to with Bretonnia in general. You can make them ambushes and scouts too. And lastly, there's the Bombard, which is a cannon. And yeah, using it as a cannon, it even says use an Empire Cannon kit. This is essentially just mixing your forces without really needing alliance rules, which is kind of cool. Again, completely dependent on how you find this, but I feel like some people are going to find this a little bit more interesting than the Crusader army at the very least. But yeah, it's only a matter of time until you guys can end up playing with this. So what else is in this book? Well, there's a little bit of lore, which is, again, I've said this in the Tomb King book, not a lot. It is a basic introduction, but it doesn't really have all the information that you're going to need if you're really invested in Bretonnia. So at some point, I'm going to do a proper lore video about this and just really have it hammered in. There are some items that you can use with your other Bretonnian armies. So this is stuff that, equipment and so on. So you can kit out your characters really well. It's not just the stuff that you've got access to with generic items. And finally, some named characters. There's only 3, which it seems to be the medium, common thing, I guess. Cecile Gaston, the Wormslayer, pretty cool character. The Green Knight is here also, which is super cool. And so is Elise Ducard, which is a character that got revealed a while back. It's not bad. Overall, I think that this is pretty good. There's definitely room for more, and I really hope there is room for more. I do suspect that we're going to get more Arcane Journals. We know that campaign books are a thing. It's just something that Named characters are generally quite liked, and obviously then there's unique models that you can use as the character or for your own kit bashes. But yeah, that's everything to do with the Bretonnia Arcane Journal. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Obviously, I'll have full proper reviews later time, but right now I'm just doing like this to showcase what you should expect from it, and later down the line we're going to be talking about faction focuses for each of the factions. So yeah guys, have a great day, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.